Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, board members. Uh, Welcome to the July 18th, 2024 Communication and Public Education Committee. My name is Jason Weiss, Chair of the committee. Before we convene, I would like to remind everyone present that the board is a consumer protection agency charged with administering and enforcing pharmacy law. Where protection of the public is inconsistent with other interests sought to be promoted, the protection of the public shall be paramount. As I facilitate this meeting, I will announce when we are accepting public comment. I have advised the meeting moderator to allot 3 minutes to each individual providing comment. Throughout the meeting, at appropriate times, we will begin with public comments for individuals attending in person, followed by public comments by individuals participating via WebEx. This approach is necessary to facilitate this meeting. Before we get started, I would like to ask staff moderating the meeting to provide general instructions on the process for providing public comment via WebEx.
When the time comes for public comment, we will display instructions on screen. We will ask everyone to raise their hand to be called on for public comment. You can do that by tapping the hand button at the bottom of your screen. Dial-in users will need to dial *3. For our mobile device users, you have 3 different screens and only one of them has a hand button, so you may need to hit the ellipses button, that's the ... in order to find your hand. And for everyone who has a keyboard available to them, we also have a Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner where you can type the word comment and get in the queue that way. We will ask that you unmute if you are able and voice your comment once you are called upon, unless you have an extreme technical difficulty, in which case we'll accept written. Mr. Chair?
Thank you, David. I would now like to take a roll call to establish quorum. Renee Barker.
Licensee member present.
I do not believe Jose is here. Jose De La Paz. Has KK arrived? KK Ja.
Licensee member present.
Wonderful. Cole Tebow.
Licensee member present.
And Mr. Newell.
Public member present.
Quorum has been established. I ask everyone participating today to be respectful of the work before the committee today. We encourage participation by members of the public throughout our meetings, at appropriate times. The committee respectfully requests that when comments are provided, they are done so in a professional manner consistent with how the committee conducts its business. Before we move to the next agenda item, I would also like to remind board members participating via WebEx to please remain visible on camera throughout the open portion of today's meeting. Members, if you need to temporarily turn off your camera due to challenges with internet connectivity, please remember to announce the reason for your non-appearance when you turn off your camera. Public comment for items not on the agenda. I will now ask the moderator to open the line for individuals to provide the opportunity for public comment. You're not required to identify yourself, but may do so. I would like to remind everyone that the board cannot take action on these items except to provide whether to place an item on a future agenda. Members, following public comments for this agenda item, I will ask members to comment on what, if any, items should be placed on a future agenda. As a reminder, this agenda item is not intended to be a discussion, rather an opportunity for members of the committee and members of the public to request consideration of an item for future placement on an agenda, at which time discussion may occur. Are there any members of the public in the Sacramento location who wish to provide comments that are not on the agenda?
There is no one in the Sacramento location.
Thank you. I will assume that there are no members of the public in the Sacramento location on future items unless I hear from you. Moderator, we are ready for public comment from individuals participating via WebEx.
We are open for public comment on items not on the agenda. If you would like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Thank you. Yes, let's bring this discussion back to members. There were no items discussed, so nothing to place on a future agenda item. Unless members, you have something? No? Okay. Moving on to agenda item number 3, approval of minutes from our January 22nd, 2024 meeting. Members, attachment 1 includes a copy of the draft minutes from our January 22nd, 2024 meeting. Do you have any questions or comments on the draft minutes? I will also entertain a motion if you believe such an action is appropriate.
Hi, Chair Weiss. It's Nicole. I'll motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you,
This is-
Nicole.
This is Renee. I'll second that.
Thank you, Renee. With a motion and a second, I will now open the discussion for public comment on the January 22nd, 2024 draft minutes.
We are open for public comment on the agenda item minutes. If you would like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, thank you, David. Now let's bring this back, this discussion back to members. Are there any additional comments, or we can take a roll call vote on the minutes? Okay, let's take a vote. Renee Barker,
Yes.
AK Jha,
Yes.
Jay Newell,
Yes.
Cole Tebow.
Yes.
I vote yes. Thank you. That measure passes. And let's have an update on the website. Members, after months of hard work by the board's information technology specialists, the new website is getting close to being launched. Staff converted more than 600 web pages and updated information to ensure that consumers continue to have access to available information. Staff has completed the conversion of the website to a newer template. The website is currently under review with DCA's internet team. It is anticipated the new website will go live no later than mid-August. Members, do you have any questions or comments? Seeing none, we will now open for public comments. David, we will go to you.
All right, we are open for public comment on the transition to a new website template. If you would like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of your screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. Seems like food coma may have taken over our audience.
It very well could be the case. Let's bring it back to members. Any comments, members? Seeing none, let's move on to agenda item number 5. Update on the Talk to the Expert consumer poster and public education campaign. The next item on our agenda is an update on the revised Notice to Consumer poster and public education campaign. Staff mailed out approximately 6,000 Talk to the Expert posters to all pharmacies in California, and you can now see them in your local pharmacy. The Notice to Consumer poster is required by law to be displayed in all pharmacies, and the text on the poster was approved by the Office of Administrative Law. In addition to the Talk to the Expert poster, a Point to Your Language poster was included in the mailing. The Point to Your Language posters include 16 translations, and the posters were updated to include 4 new languages. The 4 new languages added were Japanese, Hindi, Thai, and Punjabi. You may remember in our January meeting, we reviewed the public education campaign that was created for the Notice to the Consumer poster. This campaign highlighted that pharmacists are healthcare providers and simple steps the consumer can take to prevent medication errors. This campaign ran the week of July 8th and was distributed through the board's subscriber alert, social media, the website, and the Department of Consumer Affairs. The campaign will run again in August as a follow-up reminder to licensees. Members, do you have any questions or comments?
This is Renee. I just want to say I did look at those and I thought they looked really great. You know, it's fun to see all the different languages. So I think it's a great inclusion, the update.
Thank you, Renee. I know staff did work hard on it. I like the graphics and I like the text, and hopefully we will get a lot more hits on that in our social media channels. So thank you for that. Now let's move on to public comment.
We are open for public comment once again. If you would like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request, you wish to continue with the agenda?
Thank you, David. Members, any additional thoughts, comments?
Hi, Jason. It's Nicole. Yesterday, when we were in Enforcement and Compounding Committee, we discussed, looking into the barriers to consultation, and I brought up, continuing to partner with this group to make sure that we're educating the public from the other side. So I know we have a plan to do it again in August, but maybe it should be a more routine or an ongoing thing that we do to keep people engaged with consultations.
I think that sounds appropriate. An ongoing communication with patients in California sounds like a great idea. Now, moving on to agenda item 6, discussion and consideration of committee strategic objectives. Next on our agenda is discussion and consideration of the committee's strategic objectives. As indicated in the meeting materials, the board strategic plan 2022 to 26 includes 8 goals that guide policies and actions implemented by the Communication and Public Education Committee. The meeting materials include updates on the objectives. Staff requests the committee consider whether the current objectives remain suitable or whether specific objectives should be revised or new objectives considered. Staff has listed the objectives in this report and provided comments for each objective for the committee's consideration. Some of the highlights include developing a consumer education campaign to educate consumers about pharmacy services, including patient consultation, which was the Notice to Consumer poster and campaign. Revised education materials, such as the frequently asked questions on several laws and policies. Staff completed and implemented the surgical clinic self-assessment developed under AB 1286 and approved self-assessments for the automatic drug delivery system. In addition, staff provided continuing education to pharmacists on preventing drug abuse and drug diversion. Members, do you have any comments or questions?
Hey, Jason, it's Nicole. I just wanted to ask a question on strategic objective 4.6 to create more webinars to post on the website to disseminate basic information. It looks like, if I'm reading this correctly, the last one we did it was in 2022. I was just wondering if there was any plans for upcoming webinars.
Hey,
It's a
Nicole,
very good question. Let's have it, Sarah.
So if it's okay, I'm going to jump in. It's Anne. Sorry.
Oh, hi, Anne.
Hey, so wanted to let you know that so we have done some, so I apologize. We've done the pharmacy law one, that's updated on an annual basis. We are going to be updating the HIV PEP and PrEP as well with the new changes. So that is coming as well. And we do hope that in the coming year, we will also be able to update the ethics one that's getting a little bit old. And then as we continue to do the prescription drug abuse prevention, we're hopeful that we'll be able to make some of those standalone modules.
Thanks, Anne. I didn't think 2022 sounded right, so that answered the question. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne. Any other member comments? Okay, David, let's go to you.
All right, we are open for public comment on agenda item 6. If you would like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request, I think we're ready to continue.
Thank you, David. Let's move on to agenda item number 7, discussion and consideration on compounding activities by IV hydration. Members, the Enforcement Committee is drafting a policy statement on compounding at IV hydration clinics. In recent years, the U.S. FDA has released warnings about instances of drug products being compounded under unsanitary conditions. Many of these warnings stem from compounding occurring in sites that are not regulated by the board or other regulatory agencies, including IV hydration clinics. Although business models vary, such clinics have been identified as operating in a variety of locations, including mobile vans, beauty salons, and gymnasiums. These locations generally do not have the appropriate equipment, storage, or classified areas, nor do they have authorized healthcare professionals performing the sterile compounding. The board has referred to this committee. The board has referred to this committee development of materials that could be released to provide education on the legal requirements and patient safety considerations for such clinics. Provided in attachment number 2 is a draft information sheet intended to provide guidance to compounding facilities that are not regulated by the board. It is my understanding a draft of this document has been shared with a number of other programs with DCA to solicit feedback and to determine if there is interest in co-branding the document. Once finalized, in addition to making this information available on the board's website, I believe it would be appropriate to share with the other healing arts boards with the department. It would also be an appropriate reference document for inspector staff to provide during inspections of the IV hydration clinics. Members, I welcome your comments on this agenda item and draft information sheet.
Hey, Jason, it's Nicole. I like the draft sheet and that we're going to work with the other DCA boards, but is there any, I don't know how we would do this. Is there any plans to try to send this out or make this like slightly more publicly available? I know this isn't the patient facing one, but any way to like send this out to IV hydration clinics? Or I don't think we have a list of them, so I think that's a little harder, but any plans around that?
I absolutely understand your point. Anne?
So I think because a lot of these are not registered with us, our reach is going to be, but might be a little bit limited, but we can certainly be also sharing with, the Department of Public Health and other regulators as well, and request that they share and disseminate. I do think that the healing arts boards within DCA will hopefully be partners as well. So we are trying to expand our reach, but mostly through, leveraging our relationships with some of our sister agencies.
Thanks, Anne. That makes sense.
Thank you. Any other? Renee, yes.
Yes. So I think some feedback on this would be similar to feedback from the enforcement and compounding. I think sometimes an understanding of what compounding is and where it's occurring and by different names, I think would be really helpful. I think in this document, I mean, there's the language here is it's very different than I'm looking at the draft policy statement from you know, the Enforcement and Compounding Committee. I feel that it would provide more clarity, and somebody might see themselves in it if it doesn't just refer to compounding, because I don't know, sometimes people don't think of themselves as compounding, they're just putting vitamins in a bag, you know, um, so possibly adding just some language in the beginning paragraph about, because it says walk-in intravenous therapy services. So, you know, if it was just an IV fluid, it's not compounding. So there are places where, now whether they should be doing it or not is one thing, but it's not compounding, right? If you just take a normal saline bag and you attach it to a patient, there's no compounding involved. And that is some of what's going on, hydration for, like, you know, when somebody has a hangover, things like that. So it's when, you know, when something gets added, is when it's compounding. So, you know, in the instance like of giving some examples of adding multivitamins or electrolytes, and I wanted to back up a little, is just aware of like clinics that offer it, but there's also like, they're also known not just as IV hydration, but also as IV therapy, med spa, IV nutrient therapy, vitamin infusion, just so that it can maybe somebody could kind of understand the scope of where this is applicable. And so maybe adding some of that. I'm just not sure, like that was some of the recommendations for the draft policy statement that was reviewed yesterday. So maybe if these two things are going to be available, I mean, they don't have to be redundant. I'm just trying to understand, like this, from yesterday, the draft policy statement related to intravenous hydration clinics is also going to go to all the healing arts boards. And then if this one is also going to go to the healing arts boards, maybe I just need some clarity about what the difference is. Maybe Anne.
Are you okay if I jump in? I
Yes,
apologize.
yes,
Apparently, I'm
please.
just going to talk all day today. I am so sorry. So I think that the audiences are different, Renee, but we are trying to partner with the Healing Arts Boards in both instances because they have different reach than we do. So the policy statement that was reviewed yesterday, that intended audience is consumers. And so we were trying to frame it in the consumer way. This document is intended for for lack of a better word, the employees that are working in these locations. And that's why we're kind of talking about the USP standards and everything. So in both instances, we do hope to partner to get our message out more broadly, you know, because we all have different mailing lists or whatever else, but the intended audiences are different. And that's why some of the language is a little bit different and some of the content is just because the audiences are different. I don't know that that's helpful, but I tried.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I kind of assumed that was, I just wanted to make sure just for some clarity. You know, so there is one, you know, again, I don't know how much to drive, you know, like the word sepsis is that something that people know? So there is the statement in the draft policy, which I thought was a really good one, which was, you know, IV, this just is a sentence that is the risk, right? IV hydration is, as the name implies, administered directly to the patient's bloodstream, thereby passing many of the body's natural defenses. This can result in severe or life-threatening reactions if compounded, mixed, or administered in an unsafe manner. You know, I think somebody reading that could maybe takes it home a little bit about the risk, elaboration on it, as opposed to using the term sepsis. So you can consider that one. And I also was wondering if Now, because there's so many things obviously to comply with for the USP chapters. And I'm wondering, I mean, maybe so this is a long list, but it's not all inclusive of all the requirements. But I'm wondering if these just for the length of this document, if they could somewhat be summarized, personnel training, cleaning and disinfection, environmental monitoring, like some categories. I mean, I'm not opposed to this. I just think there's something about when you like just repetitively compounders must. It also brings home the point that compounders must do that. So I'm not opposed. I just feel like as far as like a user friendly read that maybe there could somehow be more concise. I don't know if anybody else has that thought or how, for doing this like public education. So those would be my couple suggestions, maybe adding what types of treatments, so like some type of adding additives, multivitamins or electrolytes. And then, I do like that sentence that was in the draft policy, as opposed to using the word sepsis, if this is more for the people who are on the job. That's my thoughts.
So do you have specific edits, or you would welcome changes to the draft, to the sheet? So is this something perhaps that we could have staff work on, or has it already been and then reviewed by the board? Or maybe we could have it, is it possible to do an offshoot and have Renee and maybe another member review potential edits? Anne?
So I think from a process standpoint, I mean, the world is your oyster, Jason. I'm just kidding. So I think if you feel comfortable, if the committee feels comfortable, maybe delegating to staff to work with Renee, I think we do probably need to limit it to one. When we shared it with DCA and the other boards, we would made it very clear that it was very much a draft and this was going to be the first time. So there's no one's under any illusions that this is the final. So if you all are comfortable, if the committee feels comfortable, staff working directly with Renee, very happy to do so. And then just let us know, if it's okay if we bring it back to the next committee, or what you're feeling like you would like us to do in terms of timing.
I certainly do feel I am more than comfortable and believe in Renee's abilities to do this and conduct this review. Would that require a motion? And I'd like to hear from other members of the committee.
So I don't believe that a motion is necessary, and I can't see everybody, but word on the street is some other members might have comments.
Yeah, I have my hand up. Sorry.
I can't, yeah, sorry, I can't see everyone on my screen either. So if you could just jump in, that'd be great.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Okay.
I had my hands up. Yeah, I agree with Ms. Barker. Definitely, user friendliness is great. I have a little bit of a suggestion on that draft as well. Somewhere, forgot which page was it. Somewhere there's a line about check here to see if this establishment is properly licensed to do so. Is it possible for us to give 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 names that enable for this place to do the IV treatment or do a compounding? They need to be certified with or licensed with this and that. As you may see with, there are websites that are certified by NABP and they will have a logo or, that kind of stuff. So is it possible for us to import those 4 or 5 logos so it's easy for consumer to see that this is properly licensed place versus a place to go and look up yourself, which is sometimes doing business as and fictitious name. All those are barriers for creating a search. So if that can be considered.
Is that possible? I don't think that we have currently, the board doesn't license these IV hydration clinics.
So we don't license the IV hydration clinics. I think that maybe Member Jaws referring to the portion of the document where we are encouraging individuals to confirm that they are purchasing their product that they're going to be using on patients from a licensed pharmacy, because that's one of the common issues that we're finding is they're being purchased from an unlicensed location. So what I'm hearing the takeaway is that paragraph that says the board strongly recommends that we flush that out a little bit to try to make it a little bit clear. I do think that we need to send them to the board's website, not to third parties, because an entity that's shipping products into California does need to be licensed in California. And I'm worried if we send them to a third party, the person might be, I don't know, accredited by NABP, but they might not be licensed here. So legally, they wouldn't be able to ship stuff in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got a comment. Sorry, this is Jay Newell. A couple of things. One, I definitely agree with Renee. It's not reader friendly, especially not if it's consumer facing. So making things categorical, I think, would help in a lot of ways. And there's not much by the way of consequence in terms of like what happens to the body if this is done incorrectly. Like what are the potential things that a consumer would look for in terms of this is why you can't just let anyone do this. This is why you need to look into this. So if I'm on the other end of this and I'm a consumer and I'm thinking about utilizing the hydration clinic for whatever, I'm just concerned that without proper information on what happens if this isn't done properly, I don't even know what that means. I just think, well, it just didn't work, and it's much more than that. And when using terms like sepsis, I also agree because sepsis is more of a body's response to an infection than it is a specific thing. And I feel like a lot of people don't exactly understand even what that means. So if we're going to use terms like that, explaining them will be helpful. And also when we talked earlier about some of the webinars that were available on the website, HIV, PEP and PrEP, ethics, things of that nature, is it possible to have something similar there so that this is actually discussed in some way, shape or form from, from a voice, instead of it just being something that's, a quick read with bullet points that preaches at you a little bit.
Well, Renee, I hope that you have your pen and your note taking at hand, because I think, do we even ask if you're amenable to being these ad hoc committee?
Oh, yes, I am.
Okay, wonderful. Any other member comments? And with that, let's take it to the public, David.
We are open for public comment on agenda item 7. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of your screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request, I think we're safe to continue.
Thank you. Members, any additional comments on this item? It was our lively one. I appreciate it. Okay, seeing none, let's move on to agenda item number 8, an update on communication and public education activities by staff. Next, we have communication and public education activities. I will turn this item over to the board staff for updates. Sarah?
Hello, I am Sarah Jones, the Public Information Officer for the Board of Pharmacy, with an update on activities by staff. We had 2 newsletters published in March. We had the special edition of the script released. This edition focused on AB 1286, the patient safety measure. This issue included a summary of changes for the implementation statement and explanation on how the board will hire a third party for collecting and reporting medication errors and frequently asked questions. And another issue on this of the script was released in May. Some of the topics in this issue included how San Diego County is expanding their healthcare services with their mobile unit, the standing order in the school on epinephrine epinephrine, name and gender request changes, protected reproductive and gender affirming healthcare services, a reminder for pharmacists about Medicare prescription costs, and more. Next up for outreach activities, see attachment number 3 for a list of the presentations given by staff. Thank you, staff, for getting out into the community and educating pharmacists. Speaking of educating, keeping consumers safe from fake Botox has been a topic that has come up in previous committee meetings. The California Department of Public Health recently came out with a campaign on warning consumers and healthcare professionals of counterfeit versions of Botox. Staff used the materials provided from CDPH to educate and warn consumers of fake Botox, to show pictures of what fake Botox looks like, and advise consumers to only get injections that are FDA approved from licensed professionals in a healthcare setting. And finally, in attachment number 4, we have our news media inquiries. There was interest in disciplinary reports for a pharmacy in Texas, interest in weight loss medications, and a question regarding a CVS closing. This completes activities for communication and public education.
Thank you, Sarah. Members, do you have any questions or comments? Seeing none, let's move on to public comment. David?
We are open for public comment on agenda item 8. If you would like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand. We will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request, I think we're safe to continue.
Thank you, David. Members, any last thoughts? Okay, seeing none, let's move on to our final item, future meeting dates, agenda item number 8. Thank you everyone for your time. Our next board meeting is currently scheduled for January 9th, 2025, next year. Please watch the website for updates, and next month for our outreach campaign. And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Wise. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.